Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next interview of the Master of Manifestation Online Summit 2020. Today, we are with Mr. WURMAN. I'm very glad to have you here and to have that discussion with you. We already had a few talks together, and this one is the official one, I would say. Mr. WURMAN is an architect from nature and designer. He's the author of more than 90 books, and he created a few conferences around the world. And the most famous or globally known is the TED conference, TED, which means technology, entertainment, and design. Very glad to have you here to have a discussion with you. I will give you 5 minutes to introduce yourself, introduce your main life story. I know 5 minutes is very short to sum up a life story, but I'm very curious to know what are the words that you're going to pick to introduce yourself.
Well, there are long versions of a life story, and then there's some short versions. The short version, which has been told to me by the few remaining people who are alive from I don't even know if I know any of the people alive anymore, but up till a few years ago when I was in first grade and second grade. And I'm 85. And they told me, independently, they weren't particularly friends themselves, but they told me that I appear different from than they appear to themselves, and different than other people from our early life, in that I never changed. That the way I am now, they see was the way I was when I was 7, 8 years old. I don't know if that's true. I'm telling you something that somebody else said was true to them. It's their truth. I don't know if it's factual, but it's their truth. I don't remember changing. I remember, no, it's not that I remember. I live a life where I have come into contact with tens of thousands of people because of running a series of about 40 conferences in my life and having several offices and giving a lot of speeches. So I've come in contact with a lot of people, and it has been brought to my attention, not, I think, as a pejorative or not nasty, but that they think I'm a contrarian, that I think different than other people, or I say things that are quite contrary to the way other people are thinking. And I don't believe I do. I believe they are all contrarians, but that I'm thinking clearly. So my world is completely internalized and indulgent. I think the way I think is the way you think. And I can't imagine anybody would want to live a life not feeling that way. But I don't try to be contrary. I don't do things to be different. I try to just do good work. Mm-hmm. I'm not so smart. I have no skill sets. I can't type. I don't use the computer very well at all. I can't read hard books. I'm not athletic. I don't think I do anything well. I've been interested in words and visual things and numeric things and how they dance around each other. I'm interested in the dance. In the English language, they have verbs, the action things, and adverbs, I don't even know what they are. Adjectives, they're sort of descriptive. Nouns, they have different parts of the language. I like nouns. I have an affection for nouns. And I live my life thinking about nouns kissing each other and hugging each other and dancing the tango with each other. So that's who I am.
Thank you for this introduction, beautiful introduction. I came across one of your interview on the paper and talking about creation and conferences, and you were saying that when you create something, you must create something that talks to you first. And in terms of events like this one, to create something that you would love to attend, and it really is something that inspired me to create this event. Being selfish, self-centered, and asking myself constantly the question of what do I want to create? What would I love to learn? And that's what I did. I followed that advice, and you didn't know me, but I follow your advice, and I created this event about manifestation, and there are two words that I would like to start making dance together and have your view, perspective from your life experience on them and the dance that they are making together. Those two words are minds and matter, and how to move from an idea and intuition in the mind to its realization into physical reality. So what is your view and understanding on the dance between those two words?
I can have an idea which virtually always, let me say always, it's just easier to exaggerate, always comes from the combination of curiosity and going from not knowing to knowing. I've liked the word explain. I know my next to last book was called Understanding Understanding. And then I did one on death called Mortality, which you haven't seen. And now I'm interested in the word explain, which is very similar to understand, but is even simpler, somehow more basic, and even less academic.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike academia generally. So I try to design, invent, create, listen, mix up, make a recipe, make a pie, make a cake of things that allow me to speak and have a conversation with animate and inanimate objects that help explain to me a pattern that allows me to understand things. Understanding precedes action. I speak in a lot of my own phrases. It's arrogant, but I've worked them out to be clear to me. So I've said that many times. I didn't invent it for today, but I know it is one of my truths. That why I am incapable of taking any action unless I understand something or something has been explained to me.
I completely resonate with that. I'm the same.
Yes. So that's why I use the word understand a lot. And when I came up with understanding precedes action, I tried to get it shorter, and then I finally did understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I said, learning is remembering what you're interested in. That interest has to be there for you to remember. And the act of remembering, the act of memory is the act of learning. Then I've shortened that only recently to 2 words: memorize, memory. They look the same.
Mm-hmm.
But our educational system is based on memorize, not on learning. And memory is based on learning of interesting things that interest you. So I'm looking for as elegant and simple a solution to bounce around my own head. Now, I know when you say you're selfish, or if I say to an audience at one of my conferences, which I did every year for the 18 years after I created TED, that I ran it. I also did TED Med and WWW and EG in the first Federal Design Assembly and the Aspen Conference. So I did many conferences. I finally matured to the place where I could tell the audience in the beginning, this conference is not for you. I did not invite the speakers because I thought you would like them. This conference is for me. I invited the speakers that I wanted to hear from, and I couldn't bear to contribute to my own boredom or dislike for where I had to sit. Some of them probably will bore me. They are not all equally good, or will perform in a way equally good every time. But they have no rehearsal time. There's no lectern, so they can't put down a speech. They can't read a speech. They stand right at the edge of the stage towards you and have a conversation with you. Many have slides and things, but I don't necessarily encourage that, but they certainly can have them. One conference I forbid it, but most of the time the TED always had some sonnet luminaire. And they were requested that they could not sell anything, including a worthwhile charity. They couldn't sell their last book or their next book or the book they perhaps were working on might be okay. They couldn't sell a product if they had a company. And I asked them, although I couldn't control it, not to give a conversation that they've ever had before. Not to give their canned 10, 15, 20, 35-minute speech that they get paid $40,000 to give, because I'm not paying you anything. And I don't even save a seat for the speakers in the front rows, or for anybody who pays for a dinner or a break. They don't get a seat saved. And when it's filled up, which it's always filled up, I close the door. That's it. And you wait in line before you get in the theater after each session, and you can't save your seat.
So very, very different from what people were used to at that time.
That's correct.
And so everything starts with, and you're the man who knows that, everything starts with the desire, with that I want to do it very badly. And those ideas, or intuition, or I like to say inner calling sometimes, that's just pop up in our mind, and then it stick in our mind, and we cannot let go of it, and that those thoughts repeat themselves in our minds until we go for them. From your own understanding, from your life understanding, where does desire comes from? Like when we have a desire for a specific idea, where do you think that comes from? Why do you have a desire to create this and not that?
I think that's a good question. It's probably a question I can't give a good answer to. Lou Kahn, the architect, Louis Kahn, was my mentor, is my mentor. My thinking is, he is in my thoughts often. He died a number of years ago. I did the first book ever done on Lou. The first book he allowed to be done on him, I did when I was 26. It was my first book. It was the first book he allowed to be done on him. I was a young kid. Went out of print quite quickly. And it's being re-released in January on Kickstarter, a facsimile of the book, which is a strange circle because it was done in 1962 and now it's 2020. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's going to be done in facsimile and it doesn't look dated. Lou said there's a difference between need and desire. He said, I don't want to talk about need. Our needs should be taken care of. Air, water, clothing, shelter, food, some basic learning, some basic skills, some basic things of sociability, socialization. So he didn't talk about needs. That made him somewhat an elitist because there's a lot of people that devote themselves to the needs of, let's say, 30% of the population of the world are not met. And perhaps it's 40 or 50%. I don't know the exact figures, but it's a significant amount when you multiply that times 8 billion. So it certainly makes you an elitist if you don't want to talk about needs. But there's not a project I think about that, I mean, it deals with my needs to understand, but that's my desire to understand. It's not my need to understand. I might feel so passionate or want to make a point with some students that I need to do this. No, I choose to do it. It's my desire to do it. So where does that desire come from? I told you the story that I have never changed. So I've worked, as far as I can remember, I worked in this bubble I talked about before, this vacuous bubble of making an effort. Our only commodity is time, to make an effort during that time I have to be always in the presence of people who are smarter than me. That I didn't want to be the smartest person in the room. For me, that's not so hard because I've been able to surround myself and design a life, which, by the way, is the big design problem, is designing your life. Design my life that when I call people or have conversations with people or have a conference or visit people, that I make a conscious effort that they're always smarter than I am, that there is a slice of them that I have so much to learn from.
Everything that has ever been built on Earth by human beings has first been built in the mind. It has been conceived, drowned, trapped in the mind.
I'm gonna interrupt you and tell you a sentence of Lou Kahn. Imaginary sentence. It's a woo-woo sentence, right? He thinks of an amazing time when the walls that man had built parted and the column became. They invented the column.
Mm-hmm.
None of that exists. That's
Mm-hmm.
a fairy tale in his head.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And so we're often living a limited life because we do not dare, or we don't have the confidence to express the ideas, the intuition, the desire that we have within. So what made you go for your desire?
I had comfort in ignorance. I found if you just think about it, everything starts from knowing nothing. I always wanted to be in that moment of beginning. What's the most fun? The beginning of a trip, the beginning of a phone call, the beginning of a dinner, the first drink of wine, the first cut of steak, the beginning of everything. You get a steak that's that big in a restaurant, right? That part tastes really good, the first part. The rest I'm just shoving in my mouth. I don't need any more than that. That was all the taste I need. I don't keep on tasting that good taste. I'm eating out of gluttony. A nice sip of wine, maybe two. I don't need 3 glasses. I don't taste it. It doesn't mean anything. The beginnings of things are interesting. If I designed something, a widget, and it really was designed well, why would I keep on doing another?
Do you know what is your next thing? Or not yet?
Oh, I won't know until the moment I started.
Mm.
It's the terror that I enjoy. The terror of beginning everything. A healthy terror, an exciting terror, fueled by my enthusiasm for thinking about something in a way I had never seen before.
There are so many people who don't have the confidence to do what you do. It's like, I have an idea, I'm terrified about this idea or not, depends.
Sure, they
I
have.
don't do it. I'm afraid of failure, I'm afraid of being rejected, I'm afraid of losing, I'm afraid of not making money. There are so many fears that can be involved.
Have you ever
Why so?
have you ever seen a display in a natural history museum with pins through beetles? Lots of beetles. Beetles, the bug. You know what I'm
No,
talking about?
no.
Do you know what the bug is with the sort of hard shell of it? It's called a beetle. Beetle. There's more types of beetles than any other bug.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I answered your question then.
Mm-hmm.
I just do what I do. They do what they do. I don't care that they don't do it, or I don't care that they do it. And I can't tell them how to do it, or how to be terrified, or how to say, not worry about how to embrace failure. I can't tell you. I don't know the answer to those questions.
But for you, it means that the cost of not doing it is bigger than any other cost of doing it. If I'm,
Yeah.
if I'm, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. You know about me because you've seen some things I've done. I've done some conferences, I think. But have you heard the expression that somebody is above or below the radar?
Yeah, I know that
No.
expression. Yeah.
Well, I'm way below the radar. I'm not a well-known person.
I'm interested in knowing your understanding on the mind. From all your experience, what did you learn about the mind and how the mind works?
Well, I think that's a good question. And I won't satisfy you with my answer. I'll tell a parallel story. Several years ago, not too many years ago, several years ago, I'm interested in subjects horizontally. So I have a great interest in biology, and cartography is a fundamental part of my life. And I invent cartographies, and I'm in the big cartography museums. They scan all my work and all. And there's some people that think all I am is a map maker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I'm interested in biology a good bit. And I have this image, I've always been astonished by spiders' webs, how beautiful they are, and films of how they make their webs and the interesting geometries and all those things. I always thought they were just amazing. And then a few years ago, in reading some things about biology, they said at least this was the theory I read. It might not be true, but it's the theory I read. And it was supposedly a good book, but in 10 years, maybe it'll change. Everything changes. That the cobweb that we broom away, that's all over the ugly little cobwebs, also made by spiders, is further along their evolution than the beautiful spider web that we see, and think that that's at the kind of end of their evolutionary, because it's so beautiful and grand. And we know that the spider cord is so strong, and we hear all kinds of urban legends about spiders.
Mm-hmm.
But that the spider web, the cobweb, is further along. It's more efficient, catches things more, easier to make, all kinds of reasons. Then as I look at spider cobwebs, and I look at facsimiles of the mind, of the brain, of the connections between things and things that light up in the animations that people do of brains, of the connect, it looks like a cobweb.
Mm-hmm. True.
And I thought, isn't that fantastic? That the cobweb looks like than one image of our brain that people have made. And that made me happy because it more parallels the way I think. I'm going to tell you a story. I got off the plane at Heathrow and took the tube into the city and went up the escalator, got out, and I was going to cross the street and I looked the wrong way. Cars going different than what I was used to. I looked the wrong way and I almost got hit by a London bus. It ground to a stop because I would have gotten hit. And it got hit in its rear by that same Volkswagen, right? And the bus is about the size of a blue whale, which is the largest mammal on Earth. And its heart of the blue whale is as big as the Volkswagen. Those are completely unrelated things. It never happened. It's a lie. But you'll never forget that story and those strange facts.
That is true. Just because you tell that to me, and I buy it. I buy your story.
But I also made comparative connections to everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what would be your best advice to come back about that desire that we talked about at the beginning? What would be your best advice for people who have like exciting, heartful desires in their mind and they're telling themselves that they want to do it very badly, but they don't?
Well, let me just stop right there at that very badly, because that's a very interesting phrase. Not so much lately. Maybe people are scared of me or something. But about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would give some speeches, and it was clear that I had done maybe 50 books or 60 books by then. I had done these conferences. I produced a lot of shit for not working for anybody, right? And not having a client. I produced a lot of shit. And it'd be somebody every once in a while come up to me at the end of this conference and at the end of this talk and would get me aside. They said, Mr. Wurman, we'd like your talk, blah, 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 blah. How do you get to do all those things? Do you have a patron? Are you independently wealthy? Are you, how do you get to do things? Do you have somebody that, if you have a publisher, how do you get to do all these things? It's so hard. I have all these ideas and I don't know how to get it. I don't know where to get the money to get a list. I said, well, I do have a secret, but I can't tell you because it's my secret. No, please, you have to tell me. I can't. So they really ask. I say, okay, I'll tell you, but please don't tell anybody. Every single project that you saw or that I talked about or that I've mentioned or of mine, there is somebody, and his name is Mr. I want to do it very badly. And Mr. I want to do it very badly is me. And that's how I get everything done. Thinking that Mr. Right is going to come up and give you a check or a publisher or the miracle's going to happen. Maybe it will to somebody someday, but don't count on it. Your fuel is your own enthusiasm. And then eventually the enthusiasm of others. That's your fuel. Better than diesel fuel.
So bet on your fuel.
Yeah. But I just want to do things very badly. Why would I do a book on death, mortality? The book is called Mortality. What could be a stupider title for a book?
Because you want to.
I wanted to.
Thank you very much for giving me your time. I think it's the most precious resource that we have, time. So thank you for sharing your time with me on multiple occasions. I wish you to have a good day and a good walk with your dog later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.